Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a rock slide in Knott County left more than 15,000 people without water yesterday. And we take you to Leslie County, where a large house fire destroyed one home and led to damage to several other buildings, including the county's health department. Plus, in Perry County, prosecutors have filed paperwork to seek the death penalty for the suspect of a 2019 Hazard murder.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. The time is 5:33 on January 17th. I'm Madison Pergram, and thank you for joining us on Mountain News This Morning on this Friday morning. If you're grabbing your coffee, just waking up, it is cold outside, so be prepared. Let's go to Brandon Robinson. Brandon, it's a little change of temperature, pace. It's a little different.
It is a little different. That's the best way to sum it up today. It's a little different. I was out yesterday walking, jogging, whatever you want to call it, and it was breezy. We're going to see less of that today, but those winds are going to pick back up, but definitely cold this morning, so bundle up as you head out. Let's take a look and see what's going on across the region this morning. McKee, all quiet. Lots of a little bit of traffic overnight there coming in and out of the Jackson County community, but again, we're looking at temperatures. That's the big story this morning. They've not moved much, but you go from Morehead at 25, Irvin 2, down to 32 in Jacksboro this morning in East Tennessee. So a frost scrape alert issued for this morning. You probably will need an extra couple of minutes to get those cars warmed up or scraped off. Not a whole lot of warmth today, but still, compared to where we're going to be early next week, it's going to feel like a heat wave. 42 is your daytime high. The clouds will start to pick up later today, but we will stay dry tonight and this weekend. That's a different story. We'll talk more about that coming up here in a little bit. Madison.
Thank you, Brandon. Well, a rock slide shut down Kentucky 15 in Knott County for hours yesterday. The road is back open, but crews spent the night working to fix a water line that was broken by the rocks, affecting more than 15,000 people. WYMT's Emily Bennett talked with officials who worked throughout the night to fix the break.
When transportation officials heard reports of a small rock slide,
there was boulders probably piled up 20 feet.
Bobby Smith never imagined he would find something like this.
It was so big that, it would took us probably days to move it with the equipment we have.
But the cleanup process accelerated with the help of B&W Coal.
They was gracious enough to send us a large loader to help in aid of removal of this.
Though many took detours, truck driver Kevin Taylor found himself stuck and waiting.
I'll lose a couple hours, but it's part of the job.
While the boulders closed the road for hours, they also damaged a water line.
When I first got here, I wasn't really sure where all the water was coming from. It was really coming out of the ground.
One of the main lines running into Letcher County.
You're talking about around 15,000 people or something that's going to be affected by this.
Before Knott County Water and Sewer could shut off the line, General Manager Jared Salmon says it emptied their tanks.
We probably lost somewhere around 600,000 to 700,000 gallons of water.
Salmon's hopeful people will not be without water for long. For Kevin Taylor,
spectating is the best sport when this is concerned.
Just a little show while out on the road.
Now that was Emily Bennett, and now the water company did tell us that the break has been fixed. However, the water will slowly be turned back on to make sure there are no other problems. And yesterday, a large house fire in Leslie County led to damage to several other buildings, including the county's health department. Firefighters say 2 homes were destroyed, and they say the fire started so quickly at a home on Hickory Street in Hayden that it damaged 2 homes next door, as well as one across the street. The fire department says the roof of the home fell on one of the firefighters, but he is expected to be okay. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. And soon work will begin to renovate the Old Grand Hotel in downtown Hazard. For more than 4 years, a fire destroyed much of the building. A disagreement on how to move on during that time between the landowner and city left its future uncertain. Within the past few days, the new city administration and owner reached an agreement. A lawsuit is being dismissed, and work will begin in hopes to return it to its old storefront. We will have much more on those developments later today. And in Laurel County, a semi-fire led to a major issue for drivers yesterday morning. It happened around 4 a.m. on Interstate 75 near Corbin. The southbound lanes of I-75 were shut down for more than 2 hours while crews worked the scene. The The interstate reopened just before 6:30 a.m. Thankfully, no one was injured. And firefighters in Rockcastle County have responded to 3 fires this month, all on the same street. Investigators say they are likely connected, and Olivia Russell talked to neighbors who say they are worried their homes could be next.
It just scares me because this was my home.
A teenage girl watched as her childhood home burnt.
There's insulation coming out of the ceiling, the walls, and everything's burnt.
It was the 3rd trailer fire on Davis Street in just a couple of weeks. The first happened on January 2nd, then another on the 8th, and the most recent was the 15th. Mount Vernon police say it was arson.
Yeah, there's no coincidence. I believe it's related. I believe all 3 of them are related.
Police are now trying to track down the person responsible. Chief Brian Carter says at least one of the victims got a message through a texting app saying "you're next." Carter says tracing that number isn't easy.
Very difficult. It's hard to trace texting apps. We're looking into everything. We've had several different stories. Several different people tell us several different things, and we're looking into everything right now.
People who live on the street hope police act fast.
Because, a lot of us are afraid for our lives.
They say they're looking out for each other because they're worried their homes could be next.
A lot of us are afraid, it could be one of us next. And the fact that they've hit a trailer with a mother and daughter, it's ridiculous.
In Mount Vernon, Olivia Russell, WKYT.
Now, police say the first 2 trailers targeted were not occupied, but the 3rd was. So far, they have not released any details about a possible suspect. And in Laurel County, one man is accused of stealing a trailer tires from a business. Deputies say Robert Chadwell entered a business on Highway 229 while it was closed. They say he stole 8 trailer tires, and he's charged with burglary. And meanwhile, the man accused of shooting a Leslie County deputy is behind bars this morning. Police booked William Mosley into the Leslie County Detention Center late Wednesday night. Here's a picture of him, and Mosley faces first-degree assault and wanton endangerment charges, among others. State police say he shot Deputy Shane Wilson in the hand last weekend. Investigators say he also gave him a false name. Joseph Lawson and Tyler France were also arrested after the shooting happened. Both remain in jail at this time, and they do not currently face charges related to the shooting. An Letcher County shooting case is now in the hands of a grand jury. Police say Bobby Combs met up with 2 men who thought Combs was bringing them marijuana. Instead, the men claim he pulled out a shotgun and demanded $50. That is when one of the other men pulled out a pistol and say Combs started shooting at them. Combs faces assault, robbery, and drug charges. The grand jury will decide whether to indict him. And prosecutors will seek the death penalty in a Hazard murder. Yesterday, they filed paperwork to try it as a capital punishment case. Police say Anthony Lewis killed Marlena Holland Hurt last year. In July, they say he beat and stabbed Holland before leaving her dead in Bobby Davis Park. A trial date is set for 1 month from today. In 1 week from Monday, a retrial will begin in a Floyd County murder case. A few years ago, the Kentucky Supreme Court ordered a new trial for Barry Hall. In 2012, a jury convicted him for the shooting deaths of Alan Tackett and his wife, Lisa. The state's high court ruled pictures used during the trial were not needed. And Kentucky's Senate president is predicting lawmakers will try to modify the pardon process. It's in response to a lot of blowback to former Governor Matt Bevin's last-minute pardons and commutations. They include people convicted of murder and rape. Now, Senate President Robert Stivers is suggesting there should be a pardons commission. The group would make recommendations to the governor. Lawmakers have also introduced a few bills that would limit a governor's pardon powers. And also up for consideration, Senate Bill 3, an act that would move all Kentucky elections to even-numbered years. That includes several offices, including governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. Since 1895, Kentucky has elected its constitutional officers in odd-number years. If passed, the change would begin in 2028. The bill would next head to the House for a vote, and this is not the first time this amendment has been introduced. Similar bills were on the table back in 2018, with one passing the Senate, but not the full House. And lawmakers say keeping schools safe remains a priority in this year's legislative session. Last year, the General Assembly passed a law that calls for more school resource officers to oversee school safety. As WYMT's Phil Pendleton reports, lawmakers were told a lot of progress has been made in the past year, but more work needs to be done.
Schools can address.
A key component of last year's priorities, Senate Bill 1, was getting more officers into schools.
Like I mentioned here, I think there's a misnomer about SROs that they're there to back up the paddy wagons and put kids in there. These, ladies and gentlemen, are role models out there. They are mentors with these kids. They are eating this up. They want to have this information.
Lawmakers were told on Thursday that there are 474 school resource officers in Kentucky, but not every school has one.
It seems to me that non-compliance is not acceptable.
But putting a trained law enforcement professional in schools is not cheap.
That's going to get into a funding question. Well, we need to encourage these school districts out there of why they're not right now equipped to have an SRO on their campus.
One bill that is being proposed for this year's session would require that every school resource officer be armed. Apparently, there are some that are not. Senate Bill 8 intends to clarify the definition of school resource officer.
We're not going to give them a slingshot. We're not going to give them something else that's not going to be able to be there to help in a situation of whatever it is that possibly could arise.
Funding for school safety remains in question, but Senator Wise says it'll be a priority in both chambers this session. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, another key component of the School Safety Act was suicide prevention. Mental health experts say most districts are more likely to deal with the loss of a student from suicide than a shooting. Well, just ahead on Mountain News this morning, we talked to one Whitley County native who is taking on Survivor for the second time.
The forecast will feature some of the coldest air we've had this winter in the next 7 days. I'll tell you all about it in about 3 minutes.